Hey there, bros. Thanks for looking into this episode of It's Not Over Yet, where we jump in with someone who is perhaps Kappa Sigma's finest export down under and noted no-cal sports honk, Steve Salisbury. Stake joins us from his home office in Melbourne and starts off by taking us back to how he realized he was destined for Greek life long before he ever got to SDSU. Some fun stories along the way about shenanigans as a pledge and how he really leaned into the overzealous JA role that he enjoyed during his first semester after initiation. We chat about how he held one of the most thanked and thankless jobs in the house, that of social chairman, and what some of his experiences along the way were with all that. He fills us in on his post-college life, which involved getting married and moving down to Australia, and shares a fascinating story about how chasing his dream led him to sideline reporting at the Super Bowl, broadcasting back to all of Australia. Some pretty cool stuff on that. Along the way, we hear about some of the other great personalities who are his contemporaries with him in the house, and how your humble host here was quite the asshole to him on a few occasions, something I sure regret, and I'm grateful that he's not the grudge-carrying type. And oh yeah, we now have the second Dave Cisneros' disappointed call out during an episode of It's Not Over Yet. So we have to get one of those counters or something like that up here to keep track of that, because there's a pattern starting to develop here. All right, enough of that. Let's get to it with this conversation I got to have with Steve Salisbury. All right. Here we are. Many thanks. We've got a good one in store for us here today. We're going international here on It's Not Over Yet. Got from all the way from Australia joining us, none other than Steve Salisbury. Steve, my man, thanks so much. Happy summertime down there. What's going on? How are you?
Doing well, Jim. Thank you so much. I'm glad you put this thing together, first of all, because it was good seeing Will, and it was really good seeing Jason, and it's nice seeing you, and I can't wait for the rest of them. So I'm really glad you did this. Life's good in Australia. I recommend that all of you come down for a holiday. A few of the guys have. I can tell you about that because we've got some good stories.
Okay.
But no, things are good. I mean, I'm a divorced guy. I've got 3 kids who are with me half the time. I got 1 kid still in school. My daughters are out of school. They're in university. That's what they call it here. They're at not at SDSU, nothing like that, but they're at Australian schools, and life's good.
All
This
right.
is home for them.
Let's get the details out of the way. The third SIG portion of the program. I need full name and hometown.
Stephen John Salisbury, Sacramento, California.
All right. Pledge.
Surely nobody forgot that.
That's been drummed into us for all these years.
Oh,
how about pledge class, big bro, and any little bros?
КИНГС F'88.
Okay.
КINGS F'88. Scott Higginbotham.
Okay.
Hig was my big bro. I love that guy. And my little bro was Kenny White, who was an absolute star.
All night white. How about offices held?
You know what? I was thinking about that because I heard you ask the other guys. I believe I was in the JVJ administration. I think I served as social chairman.
Okay.
Yeah. That might have been after your time. That was probably, I don't know when JVJ did it. It might have been like fall 90, and we graduated in 91. So
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, you mightn't have been around for that, but we had some good parties that semester, I think.
We'll get into that. We got some of that coming. I want to know, tell me about where you were in your life when you found Kappa Sig. Where were you? How old were you? Were you on campus for a while and then rushed, or did you come right in as a starry-eyed freshman?
So it was my second year at SDSU. And my story was an interesting one because when my junior year in high school, I wasn't doing very well in school. And my dad, who went to Cal Berkeley and was an SAE, approached me this one day and he said, "Hey, you want to go to the Cal game on the weekend?" And I went, "Yeah, let's do that." So we went down with a friend of his and his son to watch Cal play Oregon. And then after the game, which the Bears won, we went past the SAE house and they were having a Saturday night party. And I remember just walking through the place thinking, "Oh yeah, I could get with this," And so we're driving home and it's just the 2 of us in the car at this point. And my dad says, "Did you enjoy yourself today?" I said, "Yeah, I really did." And he goes, "What did you like?" And I said, "Well, I liked going to the game. I liked all the kids. I liked going to the fraternity house afterward." And he said, "Well, yeah, it's great." He said, "But 2.0 is not going to get that for you." So he'd thrown down the gauntlet and I thought, shit, I better get better grades. So I did. And I went so that for the rest of my high school career, I think I was probably over 3. And I went to a year of JC at Sac City. So I went down to SDSU in fall of 87. And I thought the only house that I knew was SAE. And so I don't recall if it was in the fall semester or the spring 88 semester, probably the fall semester. I went past their house during rush. And as you might expect, I didn't fit in. I didn't feel like they just weren't very nice to me, you know? And
The visor didn't get you in? I thought that the visor and being a legacy, like that automatic,
yeah, well, I thought so too. I didn't wear, at that point, I didn't own a visor, right? It was the Kappa Sig is what turned me on to visor.
Okay.
But it
Okay.
was, yeah. And the hair was relatively normal at that point. You know, I probably looked a lot like I did today, but I went in and I just didn't get a good sense. And
Okay.
I thought, and it's interesting because one of the guys that was in my wedding is an SAE and he talks to one person. You think about the group that we have all these years, nearly 40 years later, he talks
Yeah.
to one person.
Yeah.
So I think that tells you all you need to know about that house. So I didn't get a bid. I didn't stick around to find out if they were going to give me a bid. And I kind of thought, man, I don't know if this is for me. At some point during, I guess, that next semester, I got invited by a girl to go to a sorority formal. And I was sitting in a limousine next to a guy named Dave McGee. And so McGee starts, he and I got along really well that night. And, you know, he told me he was a Kappa Sig and we just kind of kept in touch. And then that next summer, I think I ran into him and he said, "You're going to come to Fall Rush?" And I went, "Yeah, I will." And I went in and that's when we were serving drinks. I think this is Fall 88. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that I was able to go in there and have a few drinks, a few beers anyway.
Okay.
And I remember thinking that the guys were much, much nicer than the people that I had met at SAE. And I thought, well, you know, I could probably do this. And there was a basketball court. You know, I played basketball growing up. So I thought, well, that'll be fun. And I had never played any volleyball, but there was a volleyball court. And I just felt like it was a really decent group of normal guys. And I've heard the word eclectic used, and it's true. You know, you had fabulous athletes, we had people of talent, we had academics, we had people in government. So there's just a wide variety of people, like a real mix. And I got a bid. You actually gave me my bid. I don't know that, I don't remember all about it. I remember where there was a ceremony and we were in the pit, I think, or maybe it was someone's room.
Yeah.
And it was I was in there and I'm like, fuck, I'm getting a bid to a house. And you looked at me and you were wearing a robe and you're like, this is serious. And I'm like, oh, shit. And so I was, you know, like most people, I wanted to fit in at that age. You know, I wanted to fit in and feel like there was a place that could help me, um, kind of assimilate into a school of 36,000 people or whatever it was. And so that started the journey.
Did
And
your
it was a
dad,
fun,
at that point, had your dad given you much insight into either what to expect or kind of how the process was going to work? Did you come in armed with any of that kind of expectation?
he had said Phi Alpha. I didn't know what that meant. He told me about being a pledge. But I mean, I'd seen with him and then with my friends, I'd watched Animal House. So I kind of had Animal House as a framework of what to expect. Wasn't that far off, you know?
Yeah, check.
Right? It wasn't. It wasn't. So I expected, I mean, I didn't know about ritual. I got a really funny story about that when I became a JA. Cheese asked me to recite, I didn't remember what it's called. I'm sorry about that. And he gave me this look, like when I couldn't do it, he's like, "You a Kappa Sig?" And I'm like, "Yeah," or whatever.
Yeah, bro.
And
Yeah, bro.
he said, he goes, "Sit down, Steve." You know, I went, fuck. But I didn't know anything other than, you know, there's going to be guys, there's going to be a lot of laughs. We're going to get up to some good fun. We'll probably meet some women. I'll probably be able to find some, there'll be test files that I can reference before I go and take tests.
We told you
None of
all, yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, no,
Those
I mean, I guess probably I know
ever
more of an
existed.
idea than anyone else.
What about that JA semester? We've heard lots of stories about you and a couple other guys that came out of their pledgeship really fired up and happy to be there and leaned into that next pledge class pretty good. Would you say
Oh,
that
I
would you
loved
say
it.
that's accurate,
Uh,
or would you say that that's a
Oh,
little pushed off?
100%. 100%. Like I think back to when I was a pledge and I don't remember like anybody being a dick to me. But if anyone was a dick to me, I didn't think they were being a dick. I thought they were just playing the role of an active. Like you could kind of tell there was a bit of a wink wink when somebody would say something to me. And I remember just to kind of like we were out at like Woodstocks or something and I called, there were a bunch of Fall 87 guys around and I said, "Ah, the Lords are Lords." And that got everybody fired up. And so they had it in for me. And I remember JR, I thought, shit, JR is gonna, if he doesn't beat me up, he's gonna blackball me. And I remember, cause so I don't know if you remember, but our pledge mom was Will Lynch,
Okay.
who was instrumental in getting me through that semester. And
Okay.
pledge dad was Pittman, right? So I remember I talked to those two guys and like, I want to get out of here. I want to quit. And they're like, why do you want to quit? And I'd never quit anything, at that point in my life. And I just think I was feeling the pressure of, these guys don't like me or whatever. But I got through. And so when I became a JA, I loved those guys like Jason Gordon and Nemesek. And I loved fucking with them. It was so fun. And that came from when I was a pledge, because I remember like Dalzell and I would walk around the house and then like Jeff Thompson pop up and go, oh shit. And and then he'd sit there and he was having fun and we had to answer the questions. And typically we didn't. So we'd get sent out of the house, where did Frank Courtney Nicodemus, go to grow up or whatever? And I'm like, how the fuck would I know that, So I thought, okay, I'm going to ask guys questions that I know they can't answer. So with like guys like Jason Gordon and Nemesek and some others, I'd find like, hey guys, I got a question for you. And I'd say, I'd love this one. I'd say, hey, what's Chris Sato's dad's name? Like I knew it was Sam, which fired Chris up. And I knew that Chris's middle name was Shanjiro, right?
Shanjiro, yes.
And I just remember the names were Sam and Toshi. And I had a friend growing up that was on my baseball team, and he had the cutest. His Japanese his grandparents would come to the games, and they were the cutest little couple. And I had this vision of Sam and Toshi being like that. So I'm like, hey, what's Chris's dad's name? And the guy's like, and I just go, and you don't even care. Like, you don't care, do you? Like, no, they don't. They don't care what Chris Sato's dad's name.
They do not care.
But that, I just loved it. And I hope those guys know that it was, I don't have a mean bone in my body, and I was just fucking with them. The thing I like to do is I'd pretend like I didn't know people's names. I got to apologize again to Rob Stiles, because in a meeting, he got up and he was blasting, fuck this and fuck that. And I'm like, guys, Rick Stiles made a great point. I knew his name was Rob.
We're having a get to know your bro night on Thursday.
That type of stuff was just, I loved I would never, like, my attitude was, and I remember being in the meetings where we would, there'd be, is this kid going to make it? And in my mind, I thought, if I would have been blackballed, I might have wanted to leave SDSU. That to me would have been so humiliating. Wow. So I thought, there are people that I don't necessarily get along with, but I don't feel, and I know other guys feel differently, but I didn't feel like it was my place to take that from them. If I didn't want to hang with that person, I just didn't have to hang out with them. So my attitude was, we're all going down this path. It's certainly not for me to take that away from anyone else. If somebody did something that was ridiculously bad and that sacrificed the well-being of the house or a bro or something like that, well, of course. But aside from that, my attitude was, if I don't get along with them, that's fine. Not everyone likes me. I'm not going to like everyone else. So, but the guys that I messed with, I loved, and I just did it for laughs. And I still think of things that I did. Like, I'll be driving the car and a song will come on and it'll remind me of school. And then I'll think of a story and I'll go, fuck, that was so funny.
Yep. Nicknames are sometimes bestowed upon us because of something that happens or something we did. With nicknames too, sometimes the more you fight them, the more they become sticky and stay with you.
Yeah.
Yours is kind of a layup as nicknames go.
Oh yeah.
Steak, did that come with you from high school? Was that yours before? Did somebody give that to you once you hit Cap Sig?
Somebody at Kappa Sig started calling me Steak. I had been called Steak earlier. Okay. I don't remember when, but in college or in high school, it was. And I think when I was a little kid, it was Salisbury Steak. Like, I think on my baseball team or in elementary school, a basketball coach called me like Salisbury Steak or something. And then in high school, it went away, and then it came back at State. And
did you resist
I loved
it? Did you resent it, or did you resist it? Or
I loved it. It was a good. Salisbury Steak. It's not so bad.
Okay.
The thing that was funny about it was that it was so well used that at one of the TGs, some young gal came up to me and she said, "Is your first or last name Steak?" So it was a great nickname. When you said Steve Salisbury, I was like, And it's funny, the Australians will hear, like, some people know me as Steak, and they're like, why do they call you Steak? Because Salisbury steak,
Okay.
well, it shouldn't be a thing anywhere. It's definitely not a thing in Australia, because it's what Salisbury steak is really bad meat with mushroom sauce on top of it.
Okay.
All right. It was usually it used to be a frozen dinner.
That
So
did.
no, nobody should eat Salisbury steak. But yeah, that was a very easy name, and people could call me Steak until the day I die. I'm happy with it.
As one of our, and I say this with much respect and love, as one of our dedicated face men of the chapter, it would seem kind of a natural to gravitate towards social chairman. Tell me about what it was like being social chairman. That is I would think that's can be a bit of a thankless job at times, and you're trying to provide activities and sustenance and all kinds of other stuff for a group of 100 plus college age men. What was that like, bro? Like, fill me in on your experience as a social chairman.
Trying to get a bunch of guys laid is essentially what that job is all about.
I would say, I think,
Well, I mean, seriously, if you're gonna, to do for your brother, if you can do that for your brother, that's quite a thing to do. I remember at the time thinking, why did I choose to do this? Because I mean, it does take work, and there were a lot of people counting on me. Obviously, it's not a life and death thing, but it's like I remember thinking, God, if we don't get like a decent pref and some decent parties, this is going to be really, really bad. And so
because
I
we were
remember
at that time, like to kind of hold that thought in time. We were really on the rise at that point that you were getting into that role. Like,
we
things were good. We
were,
had a huge house. We're doing good in sports. We're like, we seem to really be catching on across campus in the sorority landscape. Was it
yeah, we
easy? I
were.
guess, did that help? Was that easy to get the stuff done that you needed to get done?
It was. I remember. So I met. I enjoyed like getting to meet with the different sorority girls that I thought were attractive. That was something that I liked. I was like we were. My degree's right here. It's so funny. People ask me what I studied, what I got my degree in. I say it was communication, but in fact, it was speech communication,
Yeah.
which was the Greeks and the athletes. You remember that? We had we had quite a few football players in those classes. So
Yep.
I got to meet a lot of different people, a lot of different girls. And then I'd say, hey, look, why don't we do a thing? And they'd say, oh, look, we're we've already got our thing with whoever. And others would say, sure. And so we'd go and we'd pitch these ideas, and I'd always take, this is so stupid, but I'd take like the same group of guys every time. We'd go to, there was guys who liked it, like Ralph liked that type of stuff. And I'm trying to think who else, but there were a few guys that would always come. Like Jason Mauser was great. He was one of my pledge bros. I go, Jason, he just goes, sure, let's go do it, And so we would do it, and we'd go and we'd do our little presentation to the sororities to make sure that we had a pref for, I guess it would have been the spring semester. If I were doing that in the fall, it would have been for the spring semester. So I don't recall what we put together. We put a few things together, and it was thankless. Um, I was tempted. I never did it. I was tempted. You know how we had those big, long scrolls of paper, and then we'd have those big, huge felt things. Kappa Sig loves A5 or Alpha Phi. Yee. I wanted to get one and put like SAE loves teak. And I just wanted to just do a bunch of stuff like that and put it up on and I just thought, nah, I'll end up getting my ass kicked, and it's probably not. The laughs would be great, and we'd still be laughing about it today, but I chickened out. So I never did that. But
One thing I
yeah.
remember most about you, and I think anybody who sat through those chapter meetings would agree, is because of who you are and what you do and your personality leading out the way you do. Um, you were a real easy target. Like you took on a lot of and I think in Australia they would say they took the piss out of you a lot and
Oh
frequently.
man.
Um,
Yeah.
did that like seriously? Like sometimes it's like, whoa, give our man a shot
Yeah.
here.
Let me ask you, were
You
you
took it, man. You took those slings and arrows every time. Did it
Yeah.
bother you? Did it at some point? Did it like well up and just like ever get over the with anybody?
If I did, well, so you were one person that I thought couldn't stand me when we were in school. I'm hoping that you were fucking with me. But most of the time I knew people were joking around. So it didn't really bother me. It's funny. I've always taken it, and then I give it out now a lot more than I used to. And I love people who can take it and dish it. That's great. But if you come across people who are great at dishing it but can't take it, I mean, that to me, that's kind of like, that sucks. If you're gonna dish it, you got to be able to take it. And I don't know where I got that, but maybe it was my personality. I know that this right here, remember this? Like
Yeah.
I got this. I was obnoxious. That was the best time to be a 49er fan ever. And I imagine as an LA kid, you probably don't remember this,
We're
but
officially 20 minutes in, and he's made his first reference to the Niners. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, but there probably won't be any more because it's not the same as it was 30 years ago. I can promise you guys. That's not a fun existence being a Niner fan anymore. But do you remember, Jim, on campus, I saw you one day and I said to you, A's Giants, like NorCal World Series, couldn't care a steak, Rams are 5-0. Do you remember that? Do you remember that conversation?
No, but it sounds a little bit like something my
Couldn't care a steak,
overconfident
Rams are 5-0.
20-year-old self would have said.
That was funny. So yeah, it was, anyway, going back, I took a lot of shit and I probably deserved it.
No, but you would just consistently put yourself out there and just being yourself, whether it was on a
Yeah.
hoop court or whatever. And you took so much stuff, but it never seemed to rub you the wrong way. I think I say that as a compliment, as a way of saying that's hard to do for a 19, 20, 21-year-old man growing up
Yeah.
underneath that with all those guys and all that comedy coming at you, so good
Yeah,
on
that's a
you.
good no one's ever brought that up with me, and I've never given it a lot. I mean, I've given the thought that I've taken a lot of shit, but I've dished it as well. And I've done a lot of practical jokes, a lot of stuff I could probably share on here. But I don't know, maybe that built some resilience. Maybe that, I mean, so what I've done is, I mean, in my career, I mean, I've given up. I'm not doing media or acting or any of that type of shit anymore. I'm just focused now on trying to retire. And I'm in cybersecurity. I'm in sales. So I get told no and, F off, so to speak, virtually every day. So,
Sure.
I don't know, maybe that kind of toughened me for that. It kind of gave me some calluses around rejection. And I don't know I think you might be with someone right now, but I divorced became single in 2016.
Okay.
And to be in my late 40s and into my early 50s as a single foreigner here it was a learning experience, you
Okay.
know?
Can
And
imagine.
I think that, yeah, I just putting it out there. And at the end of the day, I think if you're shy in life and you're not willing to take a chance with something, you're not gonna, reap the benefits. And you and I were talking before about how do people take something that they're doing and monetize it and become a career out of it. I look at all the great people that are running companies today. It all started with an idea, and they all, I was watching a thing about Jeff Bezos the other day, who I don't particularly agree with any longer, but he was brilliant in how he presented himself. When he was trying to get people to invest in Amazon, he came off as this really affable, likable person. And you got to put it out there. The worst thing that they can tell you is no, you know?
Yeah.
And to hear no is not bad. No just builds for the yes.
Right on. Roommates. Who were some of your more notable roommates you had over the course of time as an undergrad?
So roommates. So the first Cap Sig roommate I had was I had Jason Wood as a roommate for a while. I like Jay and we were pledge bros.
Okay.
And then I think he needed a place, so he moved in, and he was great. I he was a Jace, he's a great dude, obviously. And it was hilarious because he was working at Marie Callender's, and he had a girl he was seeing, and then a girl who I think thought she was seeing him. And I remember that the girl he was seeing was with him at the house, and I answered the door, and it was the girl that thought she was seeing him. And it made for some good conversations and for some interesting times. And then I had the great Jack Calvin Colson and John Van Johnston as
Okay.
roommates. We had those two guys will always be two of my best buddies. When JBJ and I were in each other's way, the practical jokes that we played on each other.
I was going to say, those are a couple of our two king character pranksters ever, like
Oh
all
my
time.
God.
First ballot Hall of Famers.
No, yeah, well, they got me good,
All
but
right.
they got me on a daily basis. Like Colson she loved to just get into me. But there's this one this one time, Jim, so Jamie J was keen on getting a job. And so he'd interviewed with Pitney Bowes. This is his
Okay.
first job out of school. And that son of a bitch was so fired up about this that and he was talking about Luis Diaz. That was a guy that was called Luis Diaz. So we had a whiteboard and we used to leave like, John, your mom called, Jack, your mom called. So I get on the board this one day and I go, Johnny, phone call from Luis Diaz and then give him a call, and it was like he couldn't read. So he's running around the house going, what the fuck does this say? Jack, what was this? What did he say? And Jack's like, I don't know, man. So Johnny did not like that. So we got into Johnny pretty good. And then another one that was really funny is one time Pete Wagner, another Pledge bro, was over and he and Colson, we're watching Sports Center and we're sitting on this couch. And Pete's in the middle and Jack's on the other side and they're studying. And I come down and I'm sitting next to him. And I don't know why we did it, but I kind of took my hand and put it behind Pete's head and just sort of stroked his ear a little bit. And then Jack's kind of touching his leg. And Pete's like, whoa, guys. He thought we were coming on to him, man. So we just did a lot of fun stuff. Just constantly fucked around. I mean, I don't know. You probably heard the story of, I'm sure Matt Hamilton remembers this and Scott, but remember when those two shared a room?
Yeah.
Colson and I were walking through the house and we went in and Matt's door was open. And so he got onto the answering machine. You know the story?
I do.
I'm not going to tell you what he said, but Matt kind of had that voice and he did it. That's the kind of shit we got up to, I mean, just that. And then, this wasn't us, but I'm in the house one day and Harris comes out of the shower naked. Hey, you guys seen the soap? Like, fuck, get out of here. No. Turn around. It's wedged right there. You know what I mean? And it was just, I mean, how do you not love a group of guys like that? You know what I mean?
To backtrack just 1 second, to kind of summarize that story, an outgoing message was left on the machine for Scott and Matt that anybody listening to it might find a little startling. Is that?
Startling, yeah, offensive, in fact, especially if it was Matt's parents that were calling.
Parents that would happen to call. Yes,
or maybe Don's calling Matt going, hey, honey, what?
That's deep.
Yes, that was me and Colson.
Kappa Sigma lore. So what did you do with this speech communication degree right out of college? Did you go copier sales route like JVJ or did you go do something else?
I didn't. You know what I did? My dad came down for graduation. My dad passed away in June. And it's so funny now that the stories that I'm telling about him, he's like, I think about the guy every day. And so he came down and we're on campus. He goes, so what are you going to do next? I go, fuck, Dad, I don't know. And I go, I'm thinking of moving up to NorCal. He's like, what are you, nuts? He goes, why would you leave this? And I remember thinking, he's got a great point. Like, why would I leave San Diego? But it's like the one thing when I left Sacramento to move to San Diego, when I went back to Sacramento seemed smaller because it's like I'd expanded my world a little bit. And so it made that seem smaller. And just after 4 years of being there, it just felt like I needed to move. So I did. I moved to Northern California. I had a job interview. I did a lot of those on-campus interviews with like Frito-Lay and, the different like Sprint, to sell. I just god awful jobs. And I ended up, one of my buddies, Fippen, who was an SAE, goes, hey, Steak, I got a job working for Liberty Mutual as a claims adjuster.
Yes.
I go, what is that? And he told me. And so he goes, call this gal. So I called the gal. I didn't really know who Liberty Mutual was. I mean, I'd heard the name. I didn't know what a claims adjuster did. But I went in there and somehow I got the job. So I started doing claims adjusting. And I was living in Walnut Creek in the Bay Area and working out of Pleasanton. And in 94, I kept that job for 3 or 4 years. And in 94, remember the LA earthquakes?
Sure.
I got sent to LA to write estimates on houses that had been damaged. And my attitude at the time was that I was working for the devil. So when I would go out and I would write estimates on these people's houses that had sustained significant damage. I remember being in a house in Beverly Hills that had a lot of brick, and it had cracks that were, I want to say, 3 to 4 inches wide, right? And it's like, how do you, So I've got, number one, I've got no idea what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, I'll figure this out, right? I'll figure it out. So I wrote these estimates, and I just remember hearing from somebody a couple years later that I cost the company a lot more money than I should have, had I known what I was doing. But I kind of viewed that I was helping the man a little bit, or helping the common man, the common man that lives in Beverly Hills and has a $10 million house. But I did that for a while, and then I felt like I was wasting my talents. I needed to be in sales, so I got into sales.
Okay.
And I did IT sales. Now I'm in cybersecurity. I've done it for 30 years. I tried to quit when I started doing media. I moved to Australia in 2000, and I started doing media. And that came about because when I would drive around on sales calls here, when I did it in the Bay Area, I used to like to listen to KBR and listen, 49er Talk or Giant Talk or whatever. And I wasn't hearing that. So I ran into this guy who went to Indiana. He's an American guy at a party. Our ex-wives knew this person. And so we started talking, and we hit it off as you'd expect we would. And he said, why don't we start a talk show? I said, let's do that. So we didn't know where to begin. And in Australia, there are a lot of community radio stations. So he called one and said, hey, we want to do a radio show. And they said, what do you want to talk about? We said, American sports. I'm like, all right. So we created this show, and about 6 months into that, here in Melbourne, they created a station called SEN, Sports Entertainment Network, which has been running since 2004. And I got a call this one day, and this guy said, hey, I'm starting a show on SEN. I'm driving through Moorabbin, which is the area of Melbourne where we had the radio show. And the guy goes, I like what you're doing. Would you want to come do a segment? I said, sure. He goes, I'm going to connect you with another guy. So he connected me with this guy, Ed Wyatt, who used to work in TV. He went to Stanford. He's an American guy, a little bit older than I am. And so they put us together, and we had this show for years. It was called Born in USA, which is such a bad name. But through it, I gained a real love for interviewing and for talking.
This was about 2002, 2003, around there?
This began in 2004, and then it got to a point where in 2007, so the year that the Patriots went undefeated, that was Super Bowl 42, which would have been February of 2008. I got a gig going across, so I got to go to Phoenix or Glendale for Super Bowl 42.
Wow.
And so I had a media pass for everything.
Wow.
JBJ came across, and we snuck into the Maxim party, which is the party where all the athletes are. And I got some really funny pictures that I should share of us taking photos with all these different people that we'd grown up watching, and anyway, so I got to work the Super Bowl, and I was a sideline reporter. I'll tell you what, there's moments in life, that we all have where it's like, you can star. This was I'm trying to think of like an analogy, but this was my opportunity, right? I had a good radio show that was kind of niche because not everybody listened to American sports or watched American sports. So, but there was a very, very loyal following, So I'm now sitting on the sidelines of Super Bowl 42, reporting back. And so I get to where I was one of the international crews, and what they do at the Super Bowl is they bring everybody out. And I think I had 7 minutes, right? So the guy goes, we're all lined up, all the international people, and they go, okay, Australia, you're up. So I go over and I get into position, and the kid comes over and he says, hey, where's your equipment? I go, what are you talking about? He goes, your equipment, where the fuck's your equipment? I go, I don't have any equipment. And he goes, oh shit. So I ended up having to I didn't have headphones, right? They expected I was going to have this stuff. So they give me a microphone, and I've got through a BlackBerry. Remember BlackBerries? I had a BlackBerry with a set of headphones or into my ear. And I'm on the phone with my buddy Ed, who was working at SBS, which is the TV station that was broadcasting the Super Bowl. So I've got this, what I believed was a live feed going across. And I can't hear what he's saying. You know, you're in a stadium's loud. It's even louder down on the field. So I'm there and I've got I am laying bricks in my shorts. It's not going well at all. So I thought, all right. So I finished up and then I went up to where I sat and I enjoyed the game and it was a great experience. But I did meet a lot of people in radio and I'd give these guys my CD. And I got a bunch of people who said, yeah, let's have a talk. So I ended up going across a couple years later. I moved across with the intent of going to work for, or at least the intent of interviewing for a job with ESPN and radio. So I went up to Bristol, Connecticut, which was very interesting. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I sat down with a guy named, I want to say it was Scott Masteller, who was like the head of radio broadcasting for all of ESPN. And the guy gave me an hour, you know, and then he walked me down. And this is when Colin Cowherd was still working there. So I went down and sat in his studio and watched him work. And, you know, it was great. And then I met different people. I did some work for ESPN radio in LA, like on Sunday mornings. A few times I got to go in and do that. It never really materialized because what we did is I decided to move across. I didn't say that, but I decided to leave Australia, sold the house. My kids were 4, 2, and not even a year old yet.
Okay.
And I said, fuck it, we're moving. And this was I went across thinking I'm going to make it happen. And it didn't matter what anyone said to me. I had never had such a self-belief ever before. And so I'm like, I'm going across, I'm going to get a gig. So I didn't do very well on the sidelines. I'll work on that and I'll end up doing both. And for a number of reasons, the kids being the ages they were, the fact that my wife and I our relationship started to sever, it didn't pan out the way I wanted it to. But actually going for it was the best thing I ever did for myself because I would have always wondered, you know, when you take that step, the thing I realized is when you take that step, thinking that you're going in a certain direction, it might take you in a different direction. And you realize that this isn't the thing you want. So it gave me some autonomy and I felt like I was in charge of my life really for the first time.
And how do you not know unless you take that shot? If you're given this opportunity of a lifetime to tackle this dream that you've had and something you know you're very good at, I think anybody in
I
the
like
world
to
would
think I
give that
was.
shot, you know?
I like to think I was pretty naive, but yeah, you're 100% correct, Jim. If you don't try, you'll never know. And so, I mean, when I talk to my kids, you know, my daughters are nearly 21 and nearly 19 and my son's 17. And if they'll listen to me, like my oldest one will, and my son will, my middle one doesn't really care what I have to say. But I'm like, you know what, like this journey that you're on is yours and you decide what works for you and don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't do. You just do it. And and I say, look at the people who are successful and listen to what their stories are. They all had the doubt. They all had the, you know, can I get into the fraternity? Are people going to like me? We've all dealt with it, you know, and
They've
until
all
you
failed more times than they've succeeded. And, you know, they'll have the success
One of
looks
my
great
favorite
over here and
stories-
what you see on TV and all that is great, but there's a lot more feedback coming in the other way and trying to cut you off
100%.
and there is those
Like
kids like that.
the Sylvester Stallone story is the one I love. I mean, how many times did he get rejected before he got yes
Yeah.
on Rocky? 250? I mean, how many of us could handle no 250 times?
Yeah.
You know, so anyway.
You're a noted NoCal, well, sports fan in general, but certainly you favorite your hometown teams up there in NoCal. How do you stay in touch? We get, you know, ESPN's ubiquitous and you can't shake any of the major coverages and things like that. But I know it's way different down in Australia. What do you do to stay in touch with it? How are you seeing it the same way we're seeing it up here in the States?
One of the biggest, so the time difference is the worst thing about living here.
Right.
So when the season, I mean, I grew up like you in California. And so growing up, 10 a.m. Sunday was the first game.
Yeah.
1 o'clock Sunday. And then as we got older, they started playing the game at, you know, the 5 o'clock night or whatever it was on Sundays. And then we had Monday Night Football at 6 p.m. When the season begins in September, and if the Niners are playing on the East Coast, it's a 3 a.m. start. And so it's a 3 a.m. start. So the games are 3 and 6. And then when we swap time, which happens in October and November, then the games start at 5. The early games are at 5 a.m. And these are Monday mornings. So when the Niners are playing well, I watched every game this year. I didn't get up for the 3 a.m. games, but I still do it because I'm not doing anything. Like I am emceeing an event on Monday, which is Super Bowl Sunday. I'm emceeing an event for uh, uh, it's called Pancare. It's a pancreatic cancer um, charity. So I'm the MC for this event.
Very cool.
So yeah, it's nice. So I like to give back. Um, but I mean, I don't really pay much attention anymore. I mean, I watch the Niners. I try to watch the Sacramento Kings, which is really hard to do. I don't know what's happening in baseball anymore, Jimmy. I don't pay attention to that anymore.
Oh, that's too
So
bad.
now, I mean,
That's too bad. The last couple of years have been pretty interesting.
no, baseball's not. It's not a sport anymore. No, so I just I just have to alter my times that I
Okay.
watch, and I've got a flexible schedule. So I work from home. I mean, right now I'm wearing a pair of shorts, and I'm working big deals here at home with a pair of shorts and no shoes on.
I call
So
that
I do have some flexibility.
I call that Donald ducking it. You got shirt and tie and no pants, you know?
Yeah.
The Niners practice field is trying to kill them. What have you read about that? What's the insider scoop on whether or not the field they're practicing on is a safe place to be?
Well, I have to admit that as a 49er fan, I've felt as if we have been hit by the injury bug more than most teams. I mean, I'm not paying attention to everybody. I think
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, I think there were 2 teams that lost more games by starters. I don't know that they were as critical starters as the Niners lost this year. I mean, like, not having Bosa was tough. But then I saw this report like a month ago saying, well, hey, they're next to, and I've been to their facility. And I do remember seeing, but not thinking anything about the facility next to it, the substation next to it, that this substation, that apparently it does something to weaken the ligaments. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. And this happened in 2014. And I thought, well, holy shit, that's crazy. We've had a lot of injuries the last few years.
Yeah.
And then I realized that the Niners moved from Redwood City to Santa Clara in 1988. I think it was 1988. So they've been at that stadium, or they've been playing in Levi's, which sucks. Right. To be honest with you, it sucks.
Okay.
I mean, Candlestick was a dump, but it was our dump. And now well, anyway, this thing down there, Jim, they've been practicing there for 30, what was 88? 37 years.
Okay.
So 38 years. So I don't know. I tend to think that we just don't draft enough really good players, and that I don't know what to think about them anymore. I actually think that the problem is the York family, and we need to give the team back to Eddie DeBartolo, because that guy didn't take any bullshit. He would have fired Kyle a long time ago. Not that I think Kyle should be fired, but he's, you need a guy who's going to get in, and it's kind of like your Lakers. It's like LeBron James now runs everything. Since Jerry Buss died, it's been, it's, I hate to say it, but it's sad to see the Lakers in such a sad state of affairs. Oh wait, no, that's right. That's right. You guys were gifted the best young player in the world. How does that happen as Lakers? It's like, you guys are the luckiest organization.
That part was Jerry West. That was all Jerry West.
Everybody argued that, but I mean, imagine they're like, oh, he's going to trade Vlade Divac to get Kobe Bryant, who is, after that guy's passed away, I've got a man crush on Kobe Bryant. That guy was amazing.
Yeah. There's been so many great pieces put out that showcase him and the things he did, and it's still, you're just mesmerized every time about the way he can move through space and what he can do with the ball. Just crazy.
It just his mindset was like none other. But
yeah,
how hard? I mean, everyone goes, "Oh, Jerry West is a brilliant GM." Clearly, he's the logo. But how difficult is it to get Shaquille O'Neal to? How difficult is it to get anybody to come to LA?
Yeah.
He was living in Orlando.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jack, but Orlando's not LA. And if you're a 20, what was he at the time? 25, Shaq when he came out. Yeah. Probably 25, 96. So he's 24, 25. You guys got him in his prime. He was the most dominant player any of us have ever seen. So
MDE.
It's tough. It's tough when you're a Kings fan. We can't get out of our own way. I grew up a Warriors fan. They weren't very good. And then
you got a fancy, relatively new arena there, though, out of the deal that they get to play in.
We're in Sacramento.
Yeah. The downtown arena. Not out in the barn. Not in that big airy barn by the airport.
I know. It's so bad. Do you understand? how painful 2002 was to a Kings fan? If you grew up in a city that gets zero respect, no respect, and my Sacramento boys they'll agree with me on this, and you're playing against the Los Angeles Lakers, and you have the better team.
I watched
You
a
have the
montage
better team,
of that the other night.
and you swallow
Steve, I remember where I was when Rob Ory hit that shot. I remember
so
where
do
I
I.
was. I
So do
hugged
I.
several strange men. I was in Sharky's in Hermosa Beach and hugged several strange men as we were just shouting and jumping up and down and lifting the roof off of that place. So sorry, not sorry.
I was at the Crown Casino in Melbourne. It was, we were about to go through. I mean, I'm trying to, you grew up in LA and all your teams are good. But imagine you lived in imagine if the Chargers could have actually beaten the 49ers, what that would have meant to San Diego, right?
Right.
Sacramento was worse. We'd never been to a final. And here we are in the Western Conference Finals, and we're better. We're not better than Shaq and Kobe, but we're better. And I still say that Samaki Walker hit a 3 after the buzzer in the first half that should have not counted. So that was the most, seriously, even worse than Craig fumbling and losing the 3-peat. I think Rob Ory hitting that shot was the most painful sporting event of my life.
That is one of the reasons I love sports so much, is because you and I can still have this crystal clear recall of something that happened so many years ago, even the 3 that should have counted or whatever it was. It's like,
ask me what my boss said to me yesterday. It's going to be tough for me to recall, but I can still tell you where I was and what I said. I actually, believe it or not, I had a meeting. I see psychologists and I do a lot of different therapeutic things. And I went to see the guy on that day, and I came in and I was distraught over this loss. He goes, "You seem really upset about this game." He's a South African guy living in Australia. He's like, "What the fuck are you worried about? It's a game." I'm like, "Oh man, you don't get it.
You don't get it. I don't think this is going to work.
The Lakers have hurt me since I was 10 years old." Anyway.
Sorry, not sorry. Man, I've got our closing segment here of the show, the stare into the plane portion. You ready? 5 quick answer questions.
Yes.
All right, here you go. We already talked about SAE, but maybe they apply here. Which house in Greek circle did you hate the most?
Sigma Alpha Epsilon.
Yeah.
And not because they were not
kind of universal so far. Who was the biggest or best mentor or guider of you as a pledge?
God, there were so many. I mean, if you want just one, it'd be hard to say. But I mean, I remember talking to McGrory. I remember talking to John Porter. I remember talking to Ron Green a lot. I loved Ron. Will Lynch was very helpful as my pledge mom.
Gotta love your mom
as well.
Okay. What is more stressful, standing up in front of AKL, Alpha Phi, Pi Phi, whoever, and trying to pitch a pref, or social chairman report and you use the word tentative?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I think every time I got up in meetings, people just go, I remember you once said, "Shut up, Steak. No one wants to hear your sappy ideas." So I think, I hope you were kidding. I hope you were just fucking.
Like I said, an entitled sense of self-worth there, I think, for a long period of time. And I hope you're not grudging me over all these years.
I would say that probably because you don't want to disappoint your peers and to be in front of the guys and not deliver something. I felt like, I felt responsible in a silly kind of way that I chose this and you guys are entrusting me to not fuck it up. And at that point in my life, I wasn't sure I couldn't not fuck things up. So probably the latter would have been tougher, actually.
You delivered every time. A word or phrase that you learned because of EI that you will never, ever forget.
Probably EYB, enlighten your brothers. Johnny used to say, enjoy Yuletide blessings.
Enjoy Yuletide blessings. That's a good one. What we were going for there was NorCal. Woo! But we'll take
NorCal.
EYB.
Woo!
We'll take EYB.
Yeah, that was a good one. I do love that still.
And number 5, this may be the toughest one for you. Joe Montana or Steve Young?
Joe Montana. Okay. Joe Montana. He was, I mean, I know people say Brady, was great. So here's the thing. Here's the last one for you. At that Maxim party, met Steve Young, and I've got a photo that Johnny took of the two of us. And like a fucking idiot, I'm talking to Steve Young. I said, my dad thinks you're better than Joe Montana. And I go, I don't know about that. And this guy's probably thinking, and I'm taking a picture with you. It's just Montana was, I guess you have to go back to, so I've done a lot of dumb shit. That would be one. Like if I ever see Steve Young again, I'm hoping he doesn't remember me saying that, But I think that you got to go back to what the Niners were like. They were in the 70s, they were so bad. And my dad and I would go to games. We went to games. First game I went with him was 1977. It was against the Rams.
Okay.
And, and then 78, we won 2 games. In 79, 2 games, but Walsh came. And then we drafted Montana. Montana only threw a handful of passes that year. But in 80, you started to see that they started 3-0 and they started to play well. And they lost 8 in a row, and then they won 3 more. But then in 81, that was a magical season for a team that had been so bad. They hadn't been in the playoffs since 72. I remember in 76, they beat the Rams in LA 16-0, and they had 10 sacks. And they were 6-1. I remember saying, I was, just a young kid. I remember going, Niners are going to the playoffs. So I'd be Montana. Montana is like your first love,
Okay.
It was just, it's not like the first time you ever, you know what I mean? Montana was that guy in sports for me.
Right on. A good one to like for sure, much like yourself. And I want to thank you for being one of our very early guests on this. You're definitely worthy of a bring back at some point, because there's lots more stuff we could get into. Maybe there's a social chairman roundtable we can get together and talk about all the crazy stuff that you guys had to deal with as social chairman. But
just my pleasure, Jim. And I want to thank you, guys. Like anyone who knows you would think, okay, what does Jim love? Kappa Sig, music, and cycling, right? And your passion to put, I know what it takes. And I had a team when we did our show, right? You're doing this all on your own. So to put something together like this is not an easy task. You will learn, as you probably already, there are things that you can learn, there are templates you can use, but it's a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of effort. And thank you, because I now feel like I've got a portal where I can see the guys again. I'll probably be home in August or October of this year. I haven't decided which. And I'd love to come to San Diego and hang with everybody. But because of what you're doing, I feel like I'm more part of the community. So thank you. And you're bringing all of us together 35 years later. I don't think there's an SAE thing for San Diego State guys. So Jim, your passion and, you make it happen. So thank you.
I appreciate that, Steve. It means a lot. Thank you. It's a lot of fun and spurred on by a lot of encouragement from Mike and Dave to want to even get this off the ground anyway. There was a lot of imposter syndrome going on and just kind of noodling around with it before we got serious and locked it in. So
Gonzo and Cheese helped you with this?
They were kind of the motivational push. Dave and I had been talking about it for a while. And then I kind of sat on it near the end, getting into December. And then he and Gonzo were out, I think at like a Gonzo going away dinner. And they both called me kind of hammered, like, no, dude, we got to do this. We got to make it happen. So we kind of over the break, I got some of the back office stuff done, but it's a lot of fun. And it's thanks to, you with the great personality and the stories to bring that about. And I do apologize for any asshole type behavior I had towards you. I've always had a ton of respect for you and certainly appreciate
thanks, Jim.
Your great work in the media and all the success that you've had in your career, man. Well done. And, good luck to you.
Well, thank you, my man. I remember you and I talked about you doing this in 17, I think we talked. And I just remember thinking, you've got the most important thing around something like this, any project really, is passion, which you've got a bunch of. You got it in abundance. So there's never a doubt, and you're a smart guy. And the way that you've navigated some of the topics, it's not easy to talk with, some of the stuff that Will's been through, to be able to manage that, to take on the emotion of what, he's telling us these horrific things and thoughts that he's having. And you're able to be that, to be real and be a person and feel that, but you still have the presence of mind to keep the interview going. And it's difficult to, most of my interviews were always fun, and I rarely, I would bring topics in to try to, but I never had a situation where I had a conversation like that. You could see your humanity and you could see Will's humanity. It was actually quite beautiful the way you handled that. And so props to you, my man.
That means a lot. Thank you. Like I said, it's fun, and it's the characters, the people I'm talking to that make it that interesting. So I know there's a lot more lined up down the road here, and we're going to start hopefully plucking off a couple a week to be able to bring those stories out and hear from all the great bros that we've had through this arc of time in that chapter in this really important period of our life. So yes, for sure. When you come back, we'll get a big group together and hang and do all the fun things that we do. All right. But thanks. Don't get killed by any of the many things that are down in Australia trying to kill you, and stay healthy and safe. Okay, brother. Thank you.
I'll stay out of the water. I think I told you we've had 4 shark attacks here in the last, I don't surf much anymore, so it's not as likely to happen to me, but it does happen. And yeah, well, you just make sure that, if any mass guys come up to you, you just keep moving, right? We don't want to hear about you. I want to hear about Jim Miller getting shot, Yeah. Just don't take out the camera.
We're all laying low these days. All right, brother. Thank you much. We'll see you on the other side, okay?
Peace, my man.
It's Not Over Yet. It's a production of EYB Enterprises. This episode of It's Not Over Yet is brought to you by, tentatively brought to you by American Crew Men's Hair Care Products. The host of It's Not Over Yet is Jim Miller. Executive producers are David Cisneros, Mike Gonzalez, and Frank Nicodemus. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified of future episodes when they drop, and we're also going to get around to putting this up on Apple Podcasts so you have another way to stay up to date with what's going on with the bros from EI. Thanks for coming out.